Imagine boarding what you think is a routine flight, only to discover that a single beeping sound could change the course of history. When security forces ground a private jet carrying members of the British royal family, what they find hidden in the cargo hold sends shockwaves through intelligence agencies worldwide. This isn't just about airport security or royal protocol. This is about a discovery so sensitive that it threatens to expose decades of carefully guarded secrets. What device could be so dangerous that it would force authorities to detain a plane carrying Prince William's family? Why would someone risk everything to smuggle this mysterious object aboard a royal aircraft? And most importantly, who knew they would be carrying it? The answers lie in a web of international espionage, cutting-edge technology, and a conspiracy that reaches the highest levels of government. This is the true story of how a routine security check uncovered something that was never meant to be found, and the race against time that followed to prevent a global crisis. The clock started ticking the moment the metal detector's alarm pierced the silence of that private airfield. What happened next would test the limits of royal security, challenge international relationships, and prove that sometimes the most dangerous secrets are the ones hiding in plain sight. The morning mist hung low over the private airfield at RAF Northolt as the sleek Embraer Legacy 650 sat ready on the tarmac. Inside the exclusive terminal, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, adjusted her navy blazer while keeping one eye on her 3 children. Prince George, now 15 and showing early signs of his father's height, scrolled through his phone with the practiced indifference of a teenager. Princess Charlotte, 13 and sharp as her great-grandmother had been, organized her homework into neat piles. 8-year-old Prince Louis bounced in his seat, excited about their upcoming trip to Scotland. "Mummy, when will Papa meet us there?" Charlotte asked, looking up from her geography textbook. "He'll fly up tomorrow morning after his meeting with the Prime Minister," Catherine replied, glancing at her watch. The flight to Edinburgh was supposed to take off in 20 minutes, but something felt off. The usual bustle of pre-flight preparation seemed more intense than normal. Outside, beyond the tinted windows of the terminal, a different kind of preparation was taking place. Detective Chief Inspector Sarah Collins of the Metropolitan Police's Specialist Protection Unit stood near the aircraft, her trained eyes scanning every detail of the scene. At 42, she had spent nearly 2 decades in law enforcement, the last 8 protecting members of the royal family. Something about this morning's security briefing had set her nerves on edge. "Ma'am, we've got an unusual reading from the cargo scanner." Sergeant Mike Rodriguez approached her, his voice low but urgent. Rodriguez was former military, having served 3 tours in Afghanistan before joining the protection detail. His instincts had kept him alive in war zones, and they were screaming warnings now. Collins turned away from the terminal windows. "What kind of reading?" The scanner picked up an anomalous electromagnetic signature from one of the suitcases loaded 20 minutes ago. "It's not matching any known electronic device in our database." Rodriguez handed her a tablet showing the scan results. "Look at this pattern. It's like nothing I've seen before." The image on the screen showed a complex geometric shape with what appeared to be multiple layers of circuitry. Whatever was inside that case, it was sophisticated beyond anything typically found in personal luggage. "Which bag?" Collins asked, her mind already running through protocols. "A large black Samsonite case, loaded with the family's personal effects. According to the manifest, it contains clothing and personal items for their 3-day stay in Scotland." Collins studied the scan more carefully. The device, whatever it was, appeared to be about the size of a laptop, but with an internal structure far more complex. Multiple components seemed to be interconnected in ways that suggested advanced technology, possibly military grade. "Have you run it through the explosive detection protocols?" "Clean on all explosive scans." "But ma'am, the electromagnetic signature is consistent with some kind of transmitter or recording device, a very sophisticated one." Inside the terminal, Catherine noticed the delay and approached the customer service desk. "Excuse me, is there a problem with our flight?" The airline representative, a nervous young man named David who had been briefed to keep the royal family comfortable but uninformed about security concerns, smiled awkwardly. "Just a routine final check, Your Royal Highness. We should have you airborne very shortly." But outside, the situation was escalating rapidly. Collins had made the decision that would change everything. She was grounding the flight until they could physically examine the suspicious device. "I need you to contact Detective Inspector James Wright at Scotland Yard," she told Rodriguez. "Tell him we have a potential security threat involving the Wales family flight. And get me a full technical team out here now." "Ma'am, that's going to cause a diplomatic incident. The princess is expecting to arrive in Edinburgh for the charity gala tonight. I'd rather explain a delayed flight than investigate an incident," Collins replied grimly. "Something about this doesn't feel right." As if summoned by her words, her encrypted phone buzzed with an incoming call. The number was blocked, but the encryption signature identified it as coming from GCHQ, the government's intelligence and security agency. "Collins here. DCI Collins. This is Director Margaret Thornton from GCHQ. We need to speak immediately about your current situation." The voice was crisp, authoritative, and carried an undertone of barely controlled urgency. "Ma'am, we've identified a suspicious device in the royal family's luggage. I was about to order a physical inspection. Under no circumstances are you to touch that device until we arrive. We have a team en route to your location. ETA 12 minutes. This is now classified as a matter of national security." The line went dead, leaving Collins staring at her phone with a growing sense that this morning had just become far more complicated than a simple security screening. Rodriguez noticed her expression. "Ma'am? What did they say?" "GCHQ is taking over. Nobody touches anything until they get here." She looked back at the terminal where the royal family waited, unaware that their routine flight had become the center of a national security crisis. Minutes later, a convoy of black Range Rovers swept onto the airfield with military precision. The first vehicle disgorged a team of technical specialists in civilian clothes, but with the bearing of people accustomed to handling dangerous situations. The second vehicle carried Director Thornton herself, a woman in her 50s with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. Thornton approached Collins directly. "I need a full briefing on what you've discovered." "Electromagnetic anomaly in a suitcase belonging to the royal family. The signature doesn't match any known device, and it appears to be some kind of sophisticated transmitter. Show me the scan." Collins handed over the tablet, watching as Thornton's expression grew increasingly grim while she studied the readout. "Dear God," Thornton muttered. "How long has this been on the aircraft?" "About 45 minutes. It was loaded with the family's personal luggage." Thornton immediately activated her secure communication device. "Control, this is Director Thornton. We have a Code 7 situation at RAF Northolt. I repeat, Code 7. Initiate full-spectrum communications lockdown and deploy counterintelligence team Alpha immediately." Collins had never heard of a Code 7, but the effect on everyone around her was immediate and profound. The GCHQ technical team moved with sudden urgency, setting up equipment that looked more suited to a military operation than an airport security check. "Director, what exactly are we dealing with here?" Collins asked. Thornton looked at her with an expression that mixed professional respect with genuine concern. "Detective Chief Inspector, what you found is a prototype intelligence-gathering device that officially doesn't exist. It was developed jointly by British and American intelligence agencies for deep cover operations. The technology is so advanced that its discovery could compromise ongoing operations in multiple countries. How did it end up in the royal family's luggage? That's what we need to find out. But Collins, this device isn't just a listening device. According to our intelligence, it's designed to intercept and record encrypted communications from government and military sources within a 50-mile radius. If it's been active during the time it's been near the royal family, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Collins understood immediately. The device could have recorded conversations between the Prince of Wales and government officials, military briefings, even classified communications from nearby government facilities. "Ma'am, we need to inform the princess about the delay," Collins said. "She's going to start asking questions." "No. For now, she knows nothing. We tell her there's a technical problem with the aircraft that requires inspection. Nothing more." Thornton's voice carried the weight of someone who had made difficult decisions before. "What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. This device appears to be one of 3 prototypes that went missing from a joint intelligence facility 6 months ago. We've been hunting for them ever since. Missing? You mean stolen? We believe so, yes. The theft was so sensitive that only a handful of people across both our agencies even know about it. The technology inside these devices represents years of development and billions in research funding. More importantly, if these prototypes fall into the wrong hands, they could be reverse-engineered and mass-produced. Collins felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air, and now one has shown up in the luggage of the royal family, which means either someone in the royal household is involved or someone has used the royal family as unwitting carriers. Thornton paused, checking her secure device as another message came through. What's worse, our preliminary analysis suggests this device has been active and transmitting data for at least the past week. The implications hit Collins like a physical blow. A week ago, Prince William had attended meetings with defense officials about the UK's support for NATO operations. The royal family had attended a state dinner with visiting foreign dignitaries. Countless conversations, briefings, and potentially classified discussions could have been intercepted. Director, how certain are you that this is one of the missing prototypes? The electromagnetic signature is a perfect match. These devices were designed with unique identifying frequencies, specifically so we could track them if they were ever compromised. Thornton looked toward the terminal where the royal family waited. The question now is whether this placement was intentional or if someone is using the Wales family as unknowing carriers. And if it's intentional, then we're dealing with a security breach that goes to the very heart of the monarchy itself. As they spoke, one of the technical specialists approached with a handheld scanning device that looked like it belonged in a science fiction film. Director, we're detecting active transmission from the device. It's sending encrypted data bursts every 37 seconds to a satellite uplink. Thornton's expression hardened. Can you trace the destination? Working on it, ma'am, but the encryption is military grade. It's going to take time. Time we don't have. Thornton turned back to Collins. Detective Chief Inspector, I'm officially taking command of this situation under the National Security Act. Your team will continue to provide security for the royal family, but all decisions regarding this investigation now come through me. Collins nodded, understanding that she had just been both promoted and demoted simultaneously. She was still responsible for royal protection, but the investigation itself was now far above her clearance level. Inside the terminal, Catherine was growing concerned about the delay. She approached the window overlooking the tarmac and noticed the unusual number of vehicles and personnel surrounding their aircraft. George, put your phone down and come here, she called to her eldest son. Do you notice anything unusual out there? Prince George looked up from his device and joined his mother at the window. Even at 15, he had been taught to observe his surroundings carefully as part of his security training. There are a lot more people than usual, Mummy, and those cars don't look like normal airport vehicles. Charlotte joined them, her sharp eyes taking in the scene. Those men in suits, they're not airline workers, are they? Catherine felt her protective instincts activate. Something was definitely wrong, and her children were beginning to notice. She needed answers, and she needed them now. Stay right here, she told her children firmly. I'm going to find out what's happening. As Catherine approached the customer service desk again, her personal protection officer, Detective Sergeant Emma Harrison, intercepted her path. Ma'am, I've just received word that there's a technical issue with the aircraft that requires a thorough inspection. For your safety, we need to remain in the terminal until it's resolved. Catherine studied Harrison's face carefully. They had worked together for 3 years, and Catherine had learned to read the subtle signs that indicated when security concerns were involved. Emma, this isn't about a technical problem, is it? Harrison hesitated for just a moment, long enough for Catherine to know her suspicions were correct. Ma'am, I'm not at liberty to discuss the details, but I can assure you that appropriate authorities are handling the situation. Catherine looked back toward the window where her children waited, then at the growing number of official-looking personnel surrounding their aircraft. How long? She asked simply. I don't know, ma'am, but it could be several hours. Outside, Director Thornton was receiving updates that only made the situation more complex. Director, we've identified the satellite the device is communicating with, the technical specialist reported. It's registered to a commercial telecommunications company, but the actual ownership is hidden behind multiple shell corporations. Can you block the transmission? We could, but that might alert whoever is receiving the data that we've discovered their device. If this is part of a larger operation, we might lose our chance to trace the full network. Thornton considered the options, all of them problematic. Block the transmission and lose the chance to identify the conspirators. Allow it to continue and risk more classified information being intercepted. What's the current status of the device? Is it still actively recording? Yes, ma'am. It appears to be programmed to continuously record audio within a 50-meter radius and transmit compressed data packets at regular intervals. 50 meters. Thornton looked toward the terminal building. That means it's been recording everything the royal family has said since it was placed in their luggage. The full scope of the security breach was becoming clear. Not only had the device potentially intercepted government communications, but it had also been recording private conversations of the royal family themselves. Personal discussions, family matters, and potentially sensitive information about royal schedules and security arrangements could all be compromised. Director, we're receiving another transmission from the device, the specialist announced urgently. Can you intercept the content? Partially. It appears to be sending location data, audio files, and what looks like schedule information. Thornton realized with growing alarm that whoever had placed this device wasn't just conducting surveillance. They were actively tracking the royal family's movements and conversations in real time. Alert all protection teams immediately, she ordered. The Wales family is not to leave this secured area until we understand the full scope of this operation. As the morning wore on, what had started as a routine flight had become a complex national security investigation with international implications. The discovery of the device had exposed a conspiracy that reached far beyond a simple surveillance operation. And in the terminal building, Catherine was becoming increasingly aware that her family had somehow become the center of a situation that no one seemed willing to explain. 2 hours into the lockdown, Director Thornton received a call that changed everything about their understanding of the situation. The voice on the encrypted line belonged to CIA Deputy Director Michael Harrison, calling from Langley. Margaret, we need to talk. Immediately. And I mean face-to-face. Michael, I'm in the middle of a Code 7 situation involving one of your missing prototypes. Unless you're calling to tell me you found the other 2 devices, this will have to wait. That's exactly why I'm calling. We know where the other 2 devices are, and the situation is far worse than you realize. I'm boarding a plane now. Don't let anyone touch that device until I arrive. The line went dead, leaving Thornton staring at her phone with a growing sense of dread. If the CIA deputy director was flying across the Atlantic for an emergency meeting, this wasn't just about stolen technology anymore. Inside the terminal, Catherine had reached the limit of her patience. She had spent the better part of 2 hours watching official vehicles arrive and depart, men in suits speaking into earpieces, and her children growing increasingly restless and confused. Emma, she said to her protection officer, I need to speak with whoever is in charge of this situation. Now. Ma'am, I understand your frustration, but no, you don't understand. Catherine's voice carried the authority of someone who had spent years balancing royal duties with protecting her children. My children are asking questions I can't answer because no one is telling me what's happening. As their mother and as a member of the royal family, I have the right to know if there's a threat to our safety. Detective Sergeant Harrison found herself in an impossible position. Her duty was to protect the royal family, but her orders were to keep them uninformed about the nature of the threat. Ma'am, let me see what I can arrange. 5 minutes later, Director Thornton entered the terminal. She had changed from her operational clothing into a business suit, attempting to appear less threatening, but her expression remained serious. Your Royal Highness, I'm Director Margaret Thornton from GCHQ. I apologize for the inconvenience and confusion this morning. Catherine studied the woman before her. She had met enough intelligence officials over the years to recognize the type, competent, careful, and currently very concerned about something. Director Thornton, my children and I have been waiting here for over 2 hours while people I don't recognize examine our aircraft. I think I'm entitled to an explanation. Ma'am, during routine security screening, we discovered an item in your luggage that requires careful examination. The device appears to be some form of electronic equipment that wasn't declared on your travel manifest. Catherine frowned. What kind of electronic equipment? We're still determining that, ma'am. But given your family's profile, we need to be extremely careful about any unauthorized devices. Are you suggesting someone planted something in our luggage? Thornton chose her words carefully. We're exploring all possibilities, ma'am. In the background, Prince Louis had grown tired of waiting and was becoming increasingly vocal about his displeasure. Princess Charlotte was trying to keep him occupied with games, while Prince George had retreated into teenager mode, alternating between boredom and concern about missing his friends in Scotland. Mummy, why can't we just take a different plane? Louis asked loudly enough for several people to hear. The question highlighted a practical problem that Thornton was already considering. They couldn't keep the royal family confined indefinitely, but they also couldn't allow them to travel until they understood how the device had been placed in their luggage.
Ma'am, Thornton said to Catherine, we're arranging alternative transportation for your family.
However, we'll need to conduct security interviews with your household staff to ensure there are no additional risks. Security interviews? Catherine's voice sharpened. Director, are you implying that someone in our household is involved in whatever this is? Before Thornton could answer, her secure phone buzzed with an urgent message. The text was brief but alarming. Prototype 2 located. Embassy security breach in Berlin. Prototype 3 traced to location near Balmoral. Situation critical. The revelation that one of the other missing devices was near Balmoral, where other members of the royal family were currently in residence, meant this wasn't an isolated incident targeting just the Wales family. Your Royal Highness, I need to step outside for a moment to coordinate with my team. Please remain in the secure area of the terminal. Catherine watched Thornton leave with growing frustration and concern. Whatever was happening was clearly more serious than a simple security check, and the fact that no one would give her straight answers was making her increasingly worried about her family's safety. Outside, Thornton was coordinating a response to what was clearly a coordinated operation targeting multiple members of the royal family. Rodriguez, I need you to contact Balmoral Security immediately. There may be a device on the grounds that poses a threat to the royal family members in residence. Ma'am, are we dealing with multiple incidents? It appears so. And if these devices were placed strategically, we could be looking at a coordinated surveillance operation targeting the entire royal family. The technical specialist approached with new information that only added to the complexity of the situation. Director, we've analyzed the transmission patterns from the device. It's not just sending data, it's receiving instructions. Someone is actively controlling this device remotely. What kind of instructions? We're not sure yet, but the data suggests it can be programmed to modify its recording parameters, change transmission frequencies, and possibly even activate additional functions we haven't identified. Thornton realized they were dealing with something far more sophisticated than a passive surveillance device. This was an active intelligence tool that could be adapted in real time based on the target's movements and activities. Can you trace the source of the control signals? We're working on it, but the signals are being routed through multiple proxy servers and encrypted at military levels. Whoever is controlling this device knows what they're doing. An hour later, CIA Deputy Director Harrison's plane touched down at a military airfield 20 miles from RAF Northolt. Instead of coming directly to the scene, he requested a secure meeting facility away from the royal family's location. Thornton met him at a government safe house that had been hastily prepared for their conference. Harrison looked like he hadn't slept in days, and his first words confirmed her worst fears. Margaret, we're not just dealing with stolen prototypes. We're dealing with a coordinated attack on the intelligence capabilities of both our countries. Explain. Harrison activated a secure tablet and showed her a series of photographs and documents. 6 months ago, 3 prototype devices were stolen from our joint facility. At the time, we assumed it was industrial espionage or foreign intelligence gathering. We were wrong. What do you mean? The devices weren't stolen to be sold or reverse engineered. They were stolen to be used against us. The thieves knew exactly how these devices worked because they helped design them. Thornton studied the documents Harrison had shared. They showed a complex network of communications between the stolen devices and command centers in multiple countries. You're suggesting this was an inside job? Not just inside, it was coordinated by someone with the highest levels of access to both British and American intelligence operations. Someone who knew not only about the technology, but about how we would respond to its theft. Harrison showed her another document, a list of data that had been intercepted by the devices over the past 6 months. NATO planning documents, diplomatic communications, military deployment schedules, and detailed intelligence on government officials from both our countries. Whoever is behind this has been building a comprehensive intelligence picture that could compromise decades of ongoing operations. Thornton looked at the list with growing alarm. The scope of the compromised information was staggering. And now they've targeted the royal family directly. That's what worries me most. The royal family isn't just a symbolic target. They're present at meetings with government officials, military briefings, and diplomatic events. A device capable of recording their conversations could intercept classified information that never gets written down anywhere. Michael, who has access to this level of information about both our intelligence operations and royal security protocols? Harrison's expression was grim. That's a very short list, Margaret, and everyone on it has been thoroughly vetted and trusted for years. Back at RAF Northolt, Catherine had made a decision that would complicate the already complex situation. She had called her husband directly. "William, where are you right now?" she asked when he answered. "Still in London. Why?" "I thought you'd be in Edinburgh by now." "We're still at the airport. There's some kind of security issue with our flight, but no one will tell me what's actually happening. There are intelligence officials here, and they're treating this like some kind of major incident." Prince William paused. As someone who had been briefed on security protocols throughout his life, he knew that intelligence involvement meant the situation was serious. "Catherine, are you and the children safe?" "We're fine, but we're essentially being held in the terminal while they examine our luggage." "William, I think someone may have planted something in our bags. I'm coming to you now. Don't leave the secured area until I arrive." "William, you don't need to—" "Catherine, if GCHQ is involved, this isn't a routine security check. I'll be there within the hour." The call ended, and Catherine realized she may have just made the situation more complicated. But as a mother, her priority was ensuring her children's safety, and having their father present felt like the right decision. When Director Thornton returned to the terminal, she immediately noticed the change in Catherine's demeanor. "Ma'am, is everything all right? I've spoken to my husband. He's coming here." Thornton felt her heart sink. Having Prince William arrive would complicate the operational security of the investigation and potentially expose him to the same risks they were trying to protect his family from. "Ma'am, for security reasons, it would be better if—" "Director Thornton," Catherine interrupted. "My husband will be arriving within the hour. You can either brief us both on what's actually happening, or you can explain to the future King of England why his family was held against their will without explanation." Thornton realized she was facing a decision that could affect both the investigation and her career. The royal family had rights and expectations that couldn't be ignored, even in a national security crisis. "Ma'am, I understand your position. When Prince William arrives, I'll brief you both on what we can share about the situation." An hour later, Prince William's convoy arrived at RAF Northolt with a level of security that made it clear this was no longer being treated as a routine matter. As he entered the terminal, his expression showed both concern for his family and recognition that the situation was more serious than Catherine had been told. "Catherine, children, are you all right?" he asked, embracing them before turning to Director Thornton. "Director, I think it's time for a full briefing." Thornton led them to a secured conference room within the terminal where she could speak more freely. "Your Royal Highnesses, during routine security screening, we discovered a sophisticated electronic surveillance device in your family's luggage. This device is a prototype intelligence gathering tool that was stolen from a joint British-American intelligence facility 6 months ago." Prince William's expression grew serious. "Are you telling us that someone planted stolen intelligence equipment in our luggage?" "That's one possibility we're investigating. The device has been actively recording and transmitting data for approximately 1 week, which means conversations and activities involving your family may have been compromised." Catherine looked at her husband with alarm. "William, you had meetings with defense officials last week. And we attended the state dinner with the German Chancellor," he added grimly. Thornton nodded. "We're assessing the potential scope of any information that may have been intercepted. But there's more. This appears to be part of a coordinated operation. Similar devices have been located near other royal properties. Prince William stood up, his protective instincts fully activated. Are you telling me that my entire family is under surveillance? We believe so, sir, and whoever is responsible has access to detailed information about royal security protocols and travel arrangements. The room fell silent as the full implications of the situation became clear. This wasn't just about stolen technology or even espionage. It was about a coordinated attack on the royal family that suggested involvement by someone with intimate knowledge of their security arrangements. Prince William looked at his family, then back at Director Thornton. Director, what do you need from us to catch whoever is responsible? Sir, we need your cooperation with a full security review of your household staff, travel arrangements, and recent activities. And we need to ensure your family's safety while we investigate. And how long will that take? We don't know, sir. But until we understand the full scope of this operation and identify who's responsible, we have to assume that your family remains a target. As the afternoon wore on, what had begun as a flight delay had evolved into a comprehensive security crisis that threatened not only the royal family's privacy, but potentially national security itself. The secure conference room at RAF Northolt had been transformed into an impromptu command center. Charts, photographs, and technical diagrams covered every available surface as Director Thornton and CIA Deputy Director Harrison briefed Prince William on the full scope of what they had discovered. The device found in your family's luggage is one of 3 prototypes stolen from our joint facility, Harrison explained, pointing to a technical schematic. Each device is capable of intercepting encrypted communications within a 50-mile radius, recording audio and video, and transmitting real-time data to controllers anywhere in the world. Prince William studied the diagram with the careful attention of someone who had been trained in military intelligence during his service in the RAF. And you're certain these were stolen by someone with inside access? Absolutely, Thornton confirmed. The theft required detailed knowledge of our security protocols, access codes that change daily, and understanding of the device's capabilities that only a handful of people possess. How many people had that level of access? Harrison and Thornton exchanged a glance before Harrison answered. 14 people total. 7 from our side, 7 from yours, all with top-secret clearance and years of trusted service. Catherine, who had been listening quietly while keeping an eye on their children in the adjacent room, spoke up. But surely you've been investigating these people since the devices were stolen 6 months ago? We have, Thornton admitted, and that's part of what makes this so troubling. Our investigation cleared all 14 individuals. Background checks, financial audits, polygraph tests, surveillance, nothing indicated any of them were compromised. Prince William leaned back in his chair, processing the implications, which means either your investigation missed something or we're dealing with someone who was trained specifically to pass those tests, Harrison finished. Someone with intelligence training who knew exactly how to avoid detection. A knock on the conference room door interrupted their discussion. Detective Chief Inspector Collins entered with a tablet containing new information that would shift the investigation in an entirely different direction. Director, we've identified the source of the control signals being sent to the device. Thornton looked up expectantly. Where?
That's the problem, man.
The signals are originating from inside Buckingham Palace. The room fell completely silent. Prince William looked as though he'd been physically struck, while Catherine gripped the edge of the table. That's impossible, Prince William said finally. Palace security would detect any unauthorized transmissions. Collins continued, clearly uncomfortable with the information she was delivering. Sir, the signals are being sent using the palace's own secure communication systems. Whoever is controlling the device has administrative access to royal communication networks. Jesus Christ, Harrison muttered under his breath. They're not just inside the intelligence community. They're inside the royal household itself. Thornton was already thinking through the implications. Collins, how long have these signals been originating from the palace? According to our analysis, approximately 3 months. But here's what's really troubling. The person sending these signals has been using legitimate administrative credentials. The system logs show proper authorization codes. Prince William stood up abruptly and walked to the window overlooking the airfield. When he turned back to face the group, his expression had hardened with royal authority. Director Thornton, Director Harrison, I need you to understand something. If what you're suggesting is correct, then someone within the royal household, someone trusted with the security of my family, has betrayed us at the most fundamental level. Sir, we understand the gravity. No, I don't think you do. William's voice carried the weight of centuries of royal responsibility. This isn't just about intelligence gathering or national security. This is about the safety of my children, the privacy of my family, and the integrity of the institution I will one day lead. Catherine joined her husband at the window. William, if someone in the palace is involved, how do we know who we can trust? It was a question that cut to the heart of the crisis. Royal security depended on absolute trust among a relatively small group of people. If that trust had been compromised, the traditional protections surrounding the royal family became vulnerabilities. Harrison activated his secure tablet and pulled up another set of documents. Your Royal Highnesses, we need to consider the possibility that this operation extends beyond simple surveillance. What do you mean? Catherine asked. The data being collected by these devices isn't just conversations and communications. It includes detailed security protocols, travel schedules, personal routines, and information that could be used to plan more direct actions against the royal family. Thornton nodded grimly. We're looking at the possibility that this surveillance operation is preliminary to something more serious. Prince William returned to his seat, his expression showing both anger and determination. Then what do you recommend? First, we need to identify and isolate the source of the control signals at Buckingham Palace. That means conducting a security review of everyone with administrative access to palace communication systems. How many people is that? Approximately 35 people across various departments: communications, security, household staff, and private secretaries. Catherine looked at the number with dismay. These are people we work with every day, people who know our children, which is exactly why this operation has been so effective, Harrison observed. Whoever is responsible has been able to gather intelligence by exploiting the trust and intimacy of the royal household. Collins received another message on her tablet and looked up with new urgency. Ma'am, we're getting reports from Balmoral. They've located the device near the Queen's residence, and it's also receiving control signals from the palace communication system. The revelation that Queen Camilla, who was currently at Balmoral with other family members, was also under surveillance, added another layer of urgency to the situation. We need to contact Balmoral immediately, Prince William declared. If there are devices on the grounds, the Queen needs to be moved to a secure location. Already in progress, sir, Thornton assured him. But this confirms that we're dealing with a coordinated operation targeting multiple members of the royal family simultaneously. As the afternoon progressed, the investigation team had set up a full operational center in the terminal building. Technical specialists worked to trace the exact source of the control signals within Buckingham Palace, while security teams coordinated with royal protection officers to ensure the safety of family members at various locations. Prince George, who had been remarkably patient during the long day, approached his parents during a brief break in the briefings. Papa, are we in danger? The question every parent dreads, made more complex by the extraordinary circumstances they found themselves in. Prince William knelt to his son's level, choosing his words carefully. George, there are some people who are very interested in our family's private life. The security teams are making sure we stay safe while they deal with the situation. Is someone trying to spy on us? Yes, son. But remember all the training you've had about security protocols? This is why those things are important. Charlotte, who had been listening from nearby, asked the question that was troubling everyone. Papa, is it someone we know? Prince William looked at his daughter's serious expression and realized that his children were old enough to understand at least part of what was happening. We don't know yet, Charlotte. But that's why we have to be extra careful until the security teams figure it out. Later that evening, as technicians worked through the night to trace the source of the control signals, Thornton received a breakthrough that would change the direction of the entire investigation. Director, we've identified the specific terminal at Buckingham Palace that's been sending the control signals. Which department? The private secretary's office, specifically a terminal registered to Sarah Mitchell, Assistant Private Secretary for Communications. Thornton felt her blood run cold. Sarah Mitchell had been with the royal household for 8 years and had access to virtually every aspect of royal communications and scheduling. Where is Mitchell now? That's the problem, ma'am. According to Palace Security, she called in sick this morning and hasn't been seen since yesterday evening. The same morning the device was discovered. Yes, ma'am. Palace Security is conducting a search of her residence now, but preliminary reports suggest the property has been abandoned. Prince William, who had been monitoring the communications, joined the conversation. Sarah Mitchell has been involved in planning our family's travel arrangements for the past 5 years. She would have known about our flight to Scotland weeks in advance. More than that, sir, Collins added. She would have had access to your luggage handling arrangements, security protocols, and detailed schedules for all family members. Catherine looked stricken. Sarah has been to our private apartments. She's met our children. We trusted her completely. The betrayal was personal as well as professional. For the royal family, household staff weren't just employees. They were part of an extended family that shared in the most intimate aspects of their lives. Harrison pulled up Mitchell's personnel file on his tablet. 8 years of exemplary service, excellent references, no financial problems or personal issues that would suggest vulnerability to recruitment. Then how did she become compromised? Thornton wondered aloud. The answer came from an unexpected source. Collins's tablet chimed with a message from the team searching Mitchell's residence. Ma'am, they've found something at Mitchell's house. Documents indicating she's been in contact with foreign intelligence services for over 2 years. Which services? Multiple agencies. Russian SVR, Chinese MSS, and what appears to be a private intelligence company with connections to several governments. Thornton realized they weren't dealing with a simple case of espionage for one foreign power. Mitchell had been operating as a freelance intelligence broker, selling access to royal family information to the highest bidders. The scope of this operation is far beyond what we initially understood, she told the group. Mitchell wasn't just spying for one country. She was running a commercial intelligence operation using her position in the royal household. Prince William's anger was evident, but controlled. How much information could she have accessed over 8 years? Potentially everything, sir. Travel schedules, private conversations, security arrangements, personal relationships, financial information, and details about your children that could be used for years to come. The implications were staggering. 8 years of intimate access to the royal family's private lives, sold to foreign governments and private intelligence companies around the world. Catherine spoke quietly, but her words carried the weight of a mother's fear. If she had access to information about our children, their schools, their routines. Ma'am, we're already coordinating with security at the children's schools and implementing enhanced protection protocols, Collins assured her. But the damage had been done. The sense of security and privacy that the royal family had carefully maintained had been shattered by someone they had trusted completely. As the evening wore on, the investigation revealed the full scope of Mitchell's operation. She had been systematically documenting and selling information about the royal family to multiple buyers, using the sophisticated surveillance devices as just one part of a comprehensive intelligence-gathering network. The discovery of the device in their luggage hadn't been an accident or a one-time incident. It had been the culmination of years of careful planning and betrayal. And now, as Prince William looked at his family gathered in the secure terminal, he realized that rebuilding their sense of safety and trust would be far more difficult than simply catching the person responsible. 3 days after the discovery at RAF Northolt, the investigation had expanded into a full-scale international intelligence operation. The secure conference room at the palace had become a 24-hour command center, where British and American intelligence officials worked alongside royal protection officers to unravel the full scope of Sarah Mitchell's betrayal. Director Thornton stood before a wall-mounted display showing a complex web of connections between Mitchell and intelligence services across 3 continents. What we've uncovered is far more sophisticated than a single rogue employee, she explained to Prince William and Catherine. Mitchell was part of an organized network that has been targeting high-profile families and government officials across multiple countries. CIA Deputy Director Harrison added additional context from their investigation. We've identified similar operations targeting the families of senior government officials in Germany, France, and Canada. The same surveillance technology, the same methods of recruitment, and the same pattern of long-term intelligence gathering. Prince William studied the display with grim fascination. Are you saying this was coordinated by a foreign government? Not exactly, sir. What we're dealing with is a private intelligence company that sells access to classified information to the highest bidder. They recruit insiders, place surveillance equipment, and then auction the intelligence they gather to multiple buyers. Catherine, who had spent the past 3 days grappling with the personal violation of their family's privacy, asked the question that had been troubling her most. How much of our private life has been compromised? Harrison consulted his tablet before responding. Based on the devices we've recovered and the data transfers we've traced, we estimate that approximately 80% of your family's private communications over the past 2 years have been recorded and sold. The number hit Catherine like a physical blow. 2 years of intimate family conversations, discussions about their children's education and future, private moments between her and William, all of it captured and sold to unknown buyers around the world. Who were the buyers? Prince William demanded. Thornton activated another screen showing a list of organizations and countries. Russian intelligence services purchased information about your official duties and government meetings. Chinese intelligence bought details about your charitable work and international relationships. Several private corporations purchased information about your investment decisions and business relationships. And it wasn't just intelligence services, Harrison continued. Media organizations, celebrity gossip networks, and even criminal organizations have been buying information about your family's activities. The revelation that their private information had been commoditized and sold like any other product added another layer of violation to the betrayal. Detective Chief Inspector Collins entered the room with an update that would provide the first positive development in days. We've located Sarah Mitchell. The room fell silent as everyone turned their attention to Collins. Where? Thornton asked. Dubai. She's been arrested by local authorities at the request of Interpol. She was attempting to board a flight to a non-extradition country when she was detained. Prince William leaned forward. Will she be extradited? That's being negotiated now, sir. But we've already recovered significant evidence from her possession, including encrypted communication devices and financial records showing payments from multiple intelligence services. Catherine spoke quietly, but her voice carried a steely determination. I want to know everything. Who she sold information to, what specific details about our family were compromised, and how we prevent this from ever happening again. Over the next several hours, as Mitchell was interrogated in Dubai and additional evidence was analyzed, the full scope of the betrayal became clear. For 8 years, Sarah Mitchell had systematically documented every aspect of the royal family's private lives, from their children's daily routines to their most intimate conversations. The surveillance devices found at RAF Northolt and Balmoral were just the most recent addition to a comprehensive intelligence-gathering operation that had included hidden cameras, audio recording equipment, and sophisticated communication intercepts throughout royal properties. The level of access she had was unprecedented, Thornton explained to the royal couple. She knew your schedules before you did. She had copies of your private communications, and she was present during conversations with government officials that involved classified information. How did we miss this for so long? Prince William asked, his frustration evident. Harrison pulled up Mitchell's psychological profile. She was specifically recruited and trained for this operation. Background checks, polygraph tests, and behavioral analysis all showed her to be trustworthy, because she had been psychologically conditioned to appear loyal while systematically betraying that trust. You're talking about someone who was programmed to spy on us, Catherine observed with disgust. That's exactly what we're dealing with. Mitchell underwent months of preparation before she even applied for the position with your household. Everything about her background was carefully crafted to make her appear to be the ideal candidate. As the investigation continued, Collins received word that Mitchell had agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for reduced charges. The information she provided would expose an international network of similar operations targeting high-profile families around the world. She's provided details about 17 other operations targeting government officials, business leaders, and royal families across Europe and North America, Collins reported. The intelligence company she was working for has been operating for over a decade. Has this company been shut down? Prince William asked. We're working with international law enforcement to dismantle the network, but it's complex. The operation involves shell companies in multiple countries, encrypted communication networks, and financial systems designed to be difficult to trace. Catherine looked at the evidence surrounding them with a mixture of anger and sadness. What happens to the information that was already sold? How do we get our privacy back? It was a question that cut to the heart of the digital age's challenges. Once private information had been distributed electronically to buyers around the world, retrieving it was nearly impossible. We're working with international partners to identify and contain the spread of the information, Thornton assured her. But honestly, some of it may never be fully recovered. The reality was that the royal family's private life had been permanently compromised. Years of intimate family moments, personal discussions, and private activities were now in the possession of unknown individuals and organizations around the world. Prince William stood and walked to the window overlooking the palace gardens where his children were playing under the watchful eye of enhanced security detail. Director Thornton, Director Harrison, I need you to understand something about my family. We've accepted that our public lives belong to the nation and the Commonwealth, but our private lives, our children's childhood, the intimate moments that make us a family, those things are not commodities to be sold to the highest bidder. He turned back to face the group. I want every person involved in this operation prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I want the companies that bought this information held accountable. And I want assurances that the security changes you're implementing will prevent this from ever happening again. Sir, we're implementing a complete overhaul of royal household security, Collins confirmed. New background check procedures, enhanced surveillance detection, and restricted access protocols for all staff members. And what about our children? They're growing up knowing that their most private moments may be recorded and sold by people they trust. It was Catherine who provided the answer that would guide their family's response to the crisis. We teach them that privacy is something we have to actively protect, not something we can take for granted. We show them that trusting people is still important, but the trust has to be earned and verified. Thornton added a practical perspective. The enhanced security measures we're putting in place will include regular sweeps for surveillance equipment, restricted access to family areas, and mandatory psychological evaluations for all household staff. And we'll be providing the children with age-appropriate training on personal security and privacy protection, Harrison noted, not to frighten them, but to help them understand why these precautions are necessary. As the meeting concluded, Prince William and Catherine faced the challenge of explaining to their children that their lives had been fundamentally changed by someone's betrayal of trust. That evening, they gathered their family in the private sitting room at Kensington Palace, which had been swept multiple times for surveillance equipment and declared secure. George, Charlotte, Louis, William began, we need to talk about what happened yesterday and what it means for our family. Prince George, now understanding more about the situation, spoke first. Papa, was Miss Mitchell really spying on us? Yes, son. For many years, she was recording our private conversations and selling that information to people who shouldn't have had it. Princess Charlotte, with her characteristic directness, asked, does that mean people we don't know have heard us talking about private things? Catherine took her daughter's hand. Unfortunately, yes. Some of our private family conversations were recorded and shared with people who had no right to hear them. 8-year-old Prince Louis, still struggling to understand the concept, asked simply, are we safe now? We're very safe, William assured him. The security teams have made sure that our homes are protected, and the people who were doing bad things have been caught. But, Catherine added gently, this experience has taught us that we need to be more careful about who we trust and how we protect our private time together. Charlotte, showing wisdom beyond her years, observed, it's like we have to learn to live differently now. In some ways, yes, William agreed. But the most important thing, our love for each other and our commitment to serving the people, that never changes. As the royal family adapted to their new reality of enhanced security and constant vigilance, the investigation continued to uncover additional victims of the intelligence network that had targeted them. Government officials across Europe discovered that their families had been under surveillance for years. Business leaders found that their private negotiations had been recorded and sold to competitors. The scope of the betrayal extended far beyond the royal family. to encompass hundreds of high-profile individuals who had been unknowingly targeted by the same network. The trial of Sarah Mitchell and her co-conspirators would eventually expose the full extent of the operation and lead to new international agreements on privacy protection and intelligence sharing. But for the Wales family, the damage to their sense of privacy and security had been done. Months later, as they settled into new routines with enhanced security measures and rebuilt trust with carefully vetted staff members, Prince William reflected on the lessons learned from the experience. "We always knew that public life meant giving up some privacy," he told Catherine one evening as they watched their children play in the newly secured garden. "But we never imagined that someone we trusted completely would systematically sell our private life to anyone willing to pay for it." Catherine nodded, watching their children adapt to their new reality with the resilience that had always characterized their family. But they're handling it well. They understand why the changes were necessary, and they haven't let it change who they are. "That's what matters most," William agreed. "We can implement all the security measures in the world, but if we let this experience make us suspicious of everyone and fearful of forming relationships, then the people who betrayed us will have won." The investigation into the International Intelligence Network continued for years, leading to arrests and prosecutions across multiple countries. New laws were passed to regulate the private intelligence industry and protect the privacy of public figures and their families. But for the Wales family, the most important outcome was simpler. They had learned that while trust must be carefully given, love and family bonds are strong enough to survive even the most serious betrayals. The device found in their luggage at RAF Northolt had been designed to steal their privacy and compromise their security. Instead, it had revealed the strength of their family and their determination to protect what matters most. Years later, when Prince George would ask his father about that day at the airport, William would tell him that sometimes the worst things that happen to us teach us the most important lessons about what truly matters. And in the secure rooms of Buckingham Palace, where new protocols ensured that private conversations remained private, the royal family continued their work of serving the nation while protecting the intimate bonds that made them not just royals, but a family.